On This Week in Enterprise Tech, more efficient wireless, Oracle gets owned, and your power and gas secured. Twice on the set.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Enterprise Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Twice. This Week in Enterprise Tech, episode 173, recorded January 22nd, 2016. Power, security, audits, and other mythical creatures. This Week in Enterprise Tech is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your house. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/enterprise. And by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/Twice. And by Igloo Software. Igloo is an internet you'll actually like. It connects people with the information they need to do their best work. Try it for free at igloosoftware.com/twit or sign up for a live demo to see it in action. Welcome to Twice. This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how the world is connected. I'm your host, Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit, your guide to all things in the enterprise. But of course, I'm not guiding you by myself. I've got my regular cast of characters, starting with Mr. Brian Chee, who is holding up a box, a really teeny tiny box with a whole lot of promise. Brian, well, what is that?
That's my new Synology DS414 Slim. This is going to be my desktop NAS so that I can actually do more reliable backups. One of the bad things about moving to a much, much larger laptop is, backups take a lot longer.
Yes, they do. Yes. Now, are you going to load that up with rotating drives, or are you going to get SSDs?
In this case, I couldn't afford the SSDs, so I'm going to do 1 terabyte Western Digital Reds.
All right, that's not bad. Now, although we may be able to stock you up with some SSDs in the future. But let's not talk about SSDs, because I want to talk about one of my favorite people in the world. That is Mr. Curtis Franklin from Information Week Radio. Curtis, it is downright pouring here. I went through what was like monsoon rains to get to Petaluma. How are things over on the right coast?
Well, here in Florida, we've had rain earlier in the day, but things are settling down now. And so we're just watching the news coming from our friends and neighbors about 500 miles north, where snowpocalypse seems to be underway.
We always do come up with the catchiest names for weather-related phenomenon. Well, gentlemen, we've got a really good show, and in just a bit we're going to be bringing in Tim Erlin from Tripwire. He's going to tell us how the energy sector has been the recipient of a vast increase of cyber attacks over the past quarter, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about how Oracle may just have changed the game negatively for them as far as licensing is concerned. But before that, do you guys want to go ahead and jump into the blips?
Sure.
I think we should.
Let's do that. This first one is all about how you will be upgrading to Windows 10. Microsoft has publicly stated that they intend to hit 1 billion Windows 10 activations by July of 2018. That's ambitious by any standard, but they've been making great progress with their constant reminder of the free upgrade to Windows 10 for every, and I mean every user of Windows 7 and above. But a new wrinkle in how Microsoft handles support has many wondering if they plan to get 1 billion by finally forcing the upgrade. This week, Microsoft announced in a blog post that those who buy PCs with Intel's new Skylake processors, as well as future processors from AMD and Qualcomm, will have to upgrade to Windows 10 within 18 months if they want to continue receiving all of Redmond's patches. Users who want to continue using Windows 7 and 8.1 on new hardware will continue to receive critical patches, but only as far as they are compatible. For a thorough discussion of the new policy, including what this means for enterprise deployments and downgrade rights, watch this week's Windows Weekly with Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott.
IBM builds content capabilities with a Ustream buy. IBM is building its capabilities in media with the acquisition of Ustream. Now, Ustream delivers live and on-demand video to about 80 million viewers every month for a broad range of clients, including NASA, Facebook, Samsung, Nike, and the Discovery Channel. This is IBM's latest move in cloud-based video distribution, a mark that the company says it estimates as a $105 billion opportunity. Video is poised to grow as a valuable tool for businesses as they leverage new technologies to engage with customers and employees. Webcasts, training and education webinars, how-to videos, customer service, and conference keynotes are just a few of the many ways companies can use the video coming across Ustream. Along with the Ustream acquisition, IBM has also announced the formation of a new Cloud Video Services unit. This division, led by General Manager Braxton Jarrett, will aim to help IBM clients across industries expand their use of video.
Well, it looks like Silicon Valley wants to join the fight against encryption backdoors on devices. In a fight that seems to be led by AT&T, the big boys of technology are trying to convince the feds that encryption backdoors are a bad idea and will not really make a difference in the fight against terrorism. However, in the meantime, media pundits are saying that folks like Tim Cook of Apple should stay out of it since they don't feel it's their decision to make. Excuse me? If the decision weakens consumer confidence in your product, I would certainly expect that manufacturer's CEO to jump in with both feet.
Hey, what's better than Wi-Fi? How about super efficient Wi-Fi? A number of major enterprise players, including Cisco, Verizon, and Deutsche Telekom, have contributed a total of $25 million in VC funding to wireless startup Kumu Networks. While that number may not be particularly noteworthy in the era of billion-dollar valuations, the technology behind Kumu is. Started in 2011 by a number of Stanford researchers, Kumu claims that they have developed self-interference cancellation technology that can isolate a receiver from a transmitter in a given wireless system, basically a way for a radio not to hear itself transmit. This type of technology would allow for true full duplex wireless communication within a particular frequency, at least doubling the efficiency of our use of radio spectrum. Kumu claims that their tech is already being tested by several wireless carriers, and why not? The ability to double the effective spectrum available out of a notoriously expensive licensing agreement is a very attractive business proposal indeed. Including a round of funding in 2013, Kumu has raised $45.4 million for their research, and though they don't currently have a product available, the word is that their technology will be a big part of T-Mobile and Verizon's 5G deployment plans, as well as Cisco's next generation of wireless.
Want a free copy of Office 365? Buy a smartphone. Microsoft gave owners of the Lumia 950 and 950 XL smartphones a surprise this week. The company is offering a free subscription to Office 365 Personal and a huge chunk of OneDrive storage, but there are a few hoops they have to jump through in order to score the freebies. In order to get the subscription, consumers must have recently purchased and activated either the Lumia 950 or 950 XL handsets. In addition to gaining the apps on the smartphones, Office 365 Personal allows for fully installed copies of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint for one additional tablet and one additional Windows or Mac computer. Microsoft offered Office 365 to owners of the Lumia 640 and 640 XL last year, and the company said that the response was huge, so it's excited to share the offer with those who have snapped up the newest phone. If you want one, hurry, because Microsoft has not said just how long the offer will be available.
Now the LA Times is reporting a drone downed some power lines. The LA Times reported on January 20th that a drone hit and cut some power lines in the Southern California neighborhood of West Hollywood, putting about 700 residents in the dark. What the city council is considering is yet more ordinances for drones that will put an additional layer of permits on top of the existing FAA system. Additionally, the ordinance has a peeping Tom clause that specifically names spying on private property, in addition to clauses about interfering with public safety operations like fire and police. This, in my mind, is a bummer caused by some bozo that forgot to engage his brain before flying their drone.
Docker, the big name in containers, has acquired OS packaging specialist Unikernel Systems for an undisclosed amount. The acquisition, which closed at the end of 2015 and saw all 13 Unikernel staff members come to Docker, has the container and virtualization community pondering Docker's play. While vanilla containerization allows for the creation of a package that depends on the host server's Linux kernel, Unikernel's tech allows for the bundling of specific parts of a Linux kernel within the container, boosting the robustness of the container and increasing its portability. Additionally, a Unikernel container allows for the creation of super streamlined applications and services that only use specific parts of a multi-purpose Linux kernel. combined with general purpose containers and the upcoming Windows containers with the unikernel purchase, Docker now has an extremely attractive developer environment. Expect a big year for containers. When we come back, we're going to be speaking all about Oracle, what they did, what happened, what didn't happen, and how it may have just made licensing part of the forefront of IT. But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the first sponsor of This Week at Enterprise Tech. And it's actually a company I really enjoy talking about because I bought one of their products way before they were an advertiser. It's Ring, the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, the Ring Video Doorbell is quite simple. It's this. It's a doorbell that replaces the current doorbell that you have in your home. That in itself isn't spectacular, but what is spectacular is what you can do once you have this installed. Now, inside this kit, you're going to find everything you need to do a standard installation, from the tools and the charging cable to the Ring Video Doorbell itself, and also a nice little plate that allows you to run the Ring Video Doorbell off of the current that's going to your current doorbell system. So if you've got a wired button, that's what the Ring will run on. If you don't, well, you just charge it up with a little micro USB port here in the back, and it's good for a year. Now, what it does with that power is not just act as a doorbell, but when someone pushes the bell or when it senses motion, you can actually initiate a call. You can have a two-way conversation with someone who has rung the bell, say the UPS delivery man or someone who's coming to visit. It's like caller ID for your house. Now, here's what I really like about the Ring Video Doorbell. These videos, these conversations are actually going to be pushed up to the web. And once they're up there, you can access them on everything from your laptop to my personal favorite, your phone. So here I have the Ring Video Doorbell on my parents' house. This is the one that I actually installed for them because I was a little worried about their safety. They live in an elderly community. It's not a retirement community per se, but they do know, the bad guys know that there's a lot of folks there who go up to the club for hours a day. And so there's been a rash of burglaries. People who will ring the doorbell, wait for someone not to answer, and then they know it's clear for them to burglarize it. Well, if this happens at my parents' home, they'll ring the bell and they'll actually be connected to my parents. My parents will see who they are, they'll know that they're on camera, and a video gets recorded. This is actually from this morning. This is a motion that was detected, and so the Ring Video Doorbell just started recording and it pushed it up to the web. Even if someone tries to destroy the doorbell or steal it, that video is always there. You'll know that it was tampered with, you know that someone came by, and you'll see exactly what they did. Folks, the Ring Video Doorbell isn't just a gadget. It's not just something for safety. It's for peace of mind. I urge you to try it out. Why not go with the device that both Time Magazine and USA Today named one of their top gadgets of 2015? Go to ring.com/enterprise. That's ring.com/enterprise for free expedited FedEx shipping. Again, that's ring.com/enterprise. With Ring, you're always home. And we thank the Ring Video Doorbell for its support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Gentlemen, let's go on to this has been a sticky subject for us. In fact, since the first month of This Week in Enterprise Tech, we've been talking about licensing, specifically what the upcoming of virtualization does to licensing, how it kind of invalidates the old system. Well, there was a monumental issue with Oracle. Anyone who has had to deal with Oracle knows that their compliance department is very efficient or very hell-bringing, depending on what side you're at. Now, among companies with those strong licensing compliance departments, Oracle sort of tops the list. They are notorious for launching all-encompassing, what they call license review campaigns against its biggest customers, to the point that several law firms specialize in those compliance audits. They deal with Oracle time and time again because they know that Oracle, with that big department and with those heavy legal tactics, tends to strong-arm even medium to large-size enterprises. One of the most famous of these legal firms is Scott & Scott in Texas, and in the words of one compliance officer, once you've sold your data to Oracle, you'll pay to use them, you'll pay not to use them, and you'll pay even if you're not really sure if you're using them. That pretty much sums up exactly what's going on here. Chee, I want to bring you and Curtis into the discussion early. Chee, let's start with you. What makes Oracle licensing so aggressive? Why does it have this reputation as sort of, they come in and they take everything and then they tell you how much you owe them?
I think it's a lot because Oracle touches an awful lot of stuff. The licensing that I've seen, I actually avoid Oracle like the plague if at all possible. But there's a lot of apps where Oracle touches lots of different things, and it might be your middleware, it might be your just your back end, it might be customer portals. Oracle counts a lot of these as connections, and they license by connections. And that starts getting really expensive to the point where when I'm designing systems, unless I'm absolutely required, I won't choose Oracle anymore because of their overly aggressive licensing program.
Right. And of course, they've got the lock-in. And the lock-in is one of those parts where, well, they know you're not going to want to go somewhere else. I mean, the threshold of pain for when you've had it with Oracle is so high because your data is locked into their system that they realize they can pretty much do anything except shut you down. Curtis, Oracle's not the only company that has a licensing department. They may be the most well-known, but what are the other companies that really go at companies for compliance?
Oh, good heavens. Well, Microsoft is one that is famous as well. And Microsoft has gone after companies not only for their use of things like, Microsoft's database, but Microsoft client software as well, plus all of the various bits and pieces of logical glue that hold everything together. IBM has been aggressive, although it has to be noted that IBM has tried to soft pedal things ever since they escaped antitrust legislation a couple of decades ago. But historically, they've been big. Frankly, anyone who sells a for-profit database management system takes their lead from Oracle. No one is out there going, hey, we're the kinder, gentler database that you want to do business with. So this is common. It is one of those things where if you ask IT professionals what their major issues are, 9 times out of 10, the answer is not going to be something that has to do with technology. It has to do with licensing agreements. I know back in the Ballecer era at the Gartner Symposium every year, when he would give the keynote address, the lines that would get the biggest response from the thousands of IT executives in the audience didn't have to do with new capabilities. They had to do with the way Microsoft was looking at changing their licensing agreements. This is something that is the bane of existence of just about every IT executive out there.
Right. And in fact, I remember probably 2 years ago when Microsoft was looking at revamping some of its licensing terms, that was hidden in announcements about the operating system and about Office. But that was the part that most enterprise people were excited about because they wanted to see if Microsoft was going to simplify that mountain of regulation. They kind of did and also kind of didn't. But let's continue, because now we've got a real head scratcher. Mars Inc., that's the company that makes candies, delicious, delicious candies that I've eaten way too much of them. Well, they have Oracle's legendary License Management Services Compliance Department on them. That department opened a license review of the former's use of Oracle software in September of 2014. Now, Mars IT provided documentation of the deployment, but Oracle wasn't satisfied. They kept going back at Mars. They were demanding more information about the company's infrastructure. And eventually, Mars provided, get this, 233,089 pages of documentation showing exactly where they did and did not use Oracle software. And remember, that's 250,000 pages of documentation compiled under Mars expense. That wasn't Oracle coming in and creating a report. Now, even with all of that, Oracle wasn't satisfied. And in October of 2015, they threatened to terminate their service agreement with Mars unless its demands were met. And a few things became clear. First, the demands that Oracle were talking about was really just them saying, we think you owe us more money. Now give us the documentation that shows us that you owe us more money. Now, the big issue, as it turned out, became virtualization. With the way that Oracle's licensing works, or at least the way that they interpret their licensing, if you're running virtualization, all your servers and clusters must be licensed. Specifically, with the Mars complaint, because Mars was using VMware 5.1 and higher, Oracle demanded that they license every server and every cluster that was in operation in the infrastructure. In Oracle's view, if the hardware actually had the opportunity, not even if it wasn't, but if it had the possibility of running Oracle software inside of a virtualized container, then you had to license that particular hardware. Now, okay, let's stay with that because that in itself is a phenomenal statement. Chee, let's go back to you. Again, we called this 3.5 years ago when Twilight first started. Has there been anything more disruptive to the traditional licensing policies in the software industry than virtualization?
No. Virtualization and the spin-offs just absolutely have changed the way we do business, changed the way we've done research, changed the way we even run our personal laptops.
Right. And the funny thing about this is, I mean, I understand where they're coming from. With the way that clusters can work, especially high availability, high performance clusters, you can have an instance that runs for a while and then shuts down, runs for a while and then shuts down, and that can happen multiple times. And they want to make sure that they get paid at the high water mark. But this seems so heavy-handed. Curtis, is there a company that you would consider is doing virtualization licensing right?
Oh, that's a good question. I suspect that a lot of their customers would say that SAP gets it right, because they have kind of been out front of things going to the cloud and to virtualization. Microsoft has gotten better. I don't know that I would say that they've gotten it right, because they're, understanding their licensing agreements is the sort of thing that requires a couple of advanced degrees and years of study to do. But I think probably SAP is the best, and Oracle has been, as you say, one of the most aggressive, first in going after licensing based not just on the number of CPUs in a server, but the number of cores in those CPUs, and now going after virtualization in this huge way. The fact is, Oracle doesn't really like virtualization because they see it as an opportunity to cheat them out of money. They want to make sure that companies have as little incentive as possible to go with virtualization, and tactics like this are their primary tool.
Chee, we got PS Chops in the chat room who's saying that older companies who built their empires via licensing always seem to go down this road, and that is very true. But let me add the corollary to that. Do you see this as this is the decline when more of your attention is paid to squeezing every dime out of the customers that you do have rather than attracting new customers? Is that a sign of decline, or is that par for the course?
I think it's a sign that lawyers are the root of all evil. Sorry to Denise Howell and company, but we got an economy where the typical response to declining sales is to go and squeeze the customer for more money. It's like, excuse me, don't you want to attract customers? People like me, I used to, have and still do control some fairly large IT budgets. And every time I get hit by people doing this kind of stuff to me, I say, okay, fine. I'm going to vote with my dollars. So my vote is I personally will not nor will recommend Oracle, because I have been audited by them when I was with a 3-letter agency, and it left such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm sorry, Oracle, I probably have diverted a couple $1 million worth of sales because your people pissed me off.
Yes, that is the cry of the all-powerful IT manager. Well, gentlemen, let's finish the saga, because we've now put ourselves into a legal mess. You've got Oracle demanding more and more documentation from Mars. Mars basically saying, we don't know what you're looking for, but here's 250,000 documents. Finally, Mars had enough. On October 23rd of last year, they filed a legal action against Oracle, which is unique because there is a complete lack of case history against Oracle. You wouldn't think so. With Oracle doing this again and again and again, you would have thought that there would have been pushback at least once or twice in the last decade and a half, but not so. Those customers who went through audit hell either just paid or settled out. Now, their primary complaint was that Oracle was in violation of the 1993 Software License and Service Agreement between Mars and Oracle Inc. That, quote, limits any Oracle audit to an audit of Mars's use of programs. Basically, what Mars was saying was, look, Oracle is being very unreasonable here. They're demanding all this documentation about infrastructure that has nothing to do where their software is being run. Mars claimed that Oracle was demanding far more than was allowed on the 1993 agreement, as evidenced by the 250,000 pages of documentation. Furthermore, they claimed that when they pushed back against Oracle, saying, how much more are you going to need? Oracle threatened, actually told them that their service agreement would be terminated on October 26, 2015. So this was one of these customers saying, hey, guys, how much more are you going to need? Because this is costing us a lot of money, and if you tell us what you're looking for, we'll actually give it to you. And Oracle's saying, well, if you don't just want to give us money, we're going to shut you off. And imagine a major enterprise being told that it now has to migrate all its data in the course of a month. They figured that Mars would cave. Mars didn't. Now, when they did file that action against Oracle on December 16, 2015, Mars then filed to dismiss the action with prejudice, which means they agreed that they would not refile it. The analysts who are looking at this are saying the only way this happened is if Oracle caved completely. Mars got everything it wanted. Not only that, Mars was basically told, yes, the 1993 agreement is valid. Yes, we won't come after you again. Yes, we do believe that the documentation you provided was enough. Curtis, it would seem with Oracle's history of not having any case history against them, it was in their best interest not to cave, to actually see this through, because now all those documents that were filed are available. They are open to the public. Why did they cave?
I suspect that they caved because Mars had a CIO who was willing to go, if you pull our agreement, we will migrate, which likely means that Mars had already had conversations with someone else about an alternative platform, whether that was SAP with HANA, IBM, or one of the other major databases. It was a game of chicken. And Oracle blinked first. It also means that Mars had a legal department that was very confident in the language that they were bringing the action in regards. I have to admit, I have been part of an action around database contracts. It didn't involve Oracle. And the legal proceedings can involve some very tight readings of some rather arcane language. But just as Mars did, when we got down to brass tacks, I prevailed because we read the licensing agreement properly and were able to push back. The thing for Oracle is that now that it's been shown that a company can push back, it is unlikely that they will be as successful in the future. Oracle was much like, say, Mike Tyson, who had the reputation for being absolutely unbeatable. Once it was shown that that reputation wasn't accurate, things changed in a big hurry.
Actually, I like your read about that. That's the scuttlebutt that I've heard, and it's all rumors because the out of court settlement is completely under the table. We don't know exactly what happened, but the people who I've been listening to have said basically Mars did it right in taking a two-pronged approach. First, they did what a lot of compliance officers like to do at large enterprises. They made sure that they had way more licenses than they actually were going to use. So it wasn't, for them, it wasn't a matter of, well, we might lose in court. For them, they're like, look, we bought 50% more licenses than we will ever use. So even if they somehow prove that we're using more than we actually are, we're still covered. At the same time, when the Oracle audit department came at them, they immediately, their IT department immediately started researching what would it take to migrate their data. And so what they were able to do in those closed door sessions was to tell Oracle, look, A, you ain't going to get any more money out of us because we bought way more licenses than we needed. And B, if you keep going down this path, our IT people say we can move in a week. So Cheebert, is that the new normal? I mean, I like what Curtis says, that this is that first knockout, that first time that people are going to go, oh, they're not unbeatable. Does this mean that Oracle now has to change the way that they proceed? Is their legendary auditing department no longer so legendary?
You know, I certainly hope so. I I don't like bullies. I never have. And there is a case when I was, working for the Fed, and I had a company that said, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll send you a demo." And then when it came time to send it back, they dragged their feet, didn't give me an RMA until my trial period was done. And then they presented me with a 5-digit invoice. And I said, no, here's all my documentation. If you're not going to play nice, don't push me. Well, what they ended up with was a case in federal court with the Attorney General's office, basically slamming their head against the wall, saying, "This is unfair business practices. You will cease and desist. And oh, by the way, you're no longer capable of selling to any activity in the federal government." We need more cases like this to get people away from playing, bad business. You attract customers with carrots, not sticks.
I just, there's part of me that wishes that this was filmed. It feels like an Aaron Brockovich moment where you've got the high-powered Oracle team in wonderful suits, and then you've got Mars that are eating candy bars, and they walk in, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, by the way, A, B, take your pick. What do you want?" And they just drop the mic and walk away. But okay, let's move away from Hollywood. Oh, I'm sure we're going to hit this item again because licensing is not going away. But now that this has happened, I think major software companies do need to take a look at how they approach their best customers, because as we thought we learned back in the SEO days, typically the best way to make your customers happy is not to sue them. Let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. We're going to be bringing in Tim Erlin from Tripwire, who wants to tell us why the energy sector needs some cybersecurity. But before we do that, let's thank the second sponsor of this episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech, and it's ZipRecruiter. Now, let me ask you something. Do you own your own business? Are you responsible for staffing your business with the best talent that you can find, the most productive employees, the best minds? Well, if so, then you should know that right now is when you should act. This is the time that you should be hiring people. And we know that posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find the quality candidates, because you're not just looking for someone who has the right qualities, the right skills. You're looking for someone who fits your culture. And that means you need to cast as wide a net as possible. Well, that's exactly what ZipRecruiter understands. Thanks to ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100+ job sites with a single click, and you can be instantly matched to candidates from over 6 million resumes. Just listen to Scott. He's an actual ZipRecruiter client, and he wrote, "The recruiting process used to be so painful. Before, I'd post to several places, get a million resumes, but only a few responses from qualified candidates. It was torture. But with ZipRecruiter, we post once, and we get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of our best employees using ZipRecruiter." Now, why not be like Scott? Why not be like that hiring manager who is on his or her job, who understands that you want to get the right person and you want to get the right person fast? Just post once, and within 24 hours, you can watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. They've been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it now for free. Getting the right people for your company is so important. Do you really want to leave it up to chance? Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Twyit. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Twyit. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. We welcome back to the show Mr. Tim Erlin from Tripwire. He's the Director of Product Management. Tim, we've had you on. I believe the last time was in September when you were talking to us about Microsoft compliance with court orders. So welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, guys.
Yeah. Now, you're here to talk about the energy sector, specifically some research that was done that Tripwire has reported on, a dimensional research study that showed that the cybersecurity issues faced by the energy sector are growing. Can you clue us in? What were some of the takeaways?
Sure, happy to. So we conducted this survey and pulled out 3 specific metrics that I think are particularly interesting and published them. And it was a survey of 153 IT professionals across energy, utilities, oil, and gas. And many of those companies are, of course, more than one of those. So choose all that apply kind of situation. The oil and gas respondents produced some interesting results that we recently published. And there were 3 questions that I'll just talk through briefly and give you guys a picture of what the impression was from the survey. The first question was, how much has the rate of successful cyber attacks increased in the past month? So we're asking, short term, have you guys seen an increase in successful cyber attacks? And a full 53% said it's increased between 50 and 100%. And of course, in general, in the last 12 months, we asked that same question, if it's seen an increase in successful cyber attacks. And they responded yes at 82%. So it's pretty clear that the oil and gas industry has seen a strong, sustained increase in the number of successful cyber attacks. And that term successful is important because you often see in the press metrics around, how many attacks do you see? And those are often anything that could be construed as attack, from a port scan to, spam. When you ask about successful cyber attacks, you get a better picture of how much those attacks are actually affecting the organizations involved. So then the last question we asked was about detection. Are you confident that your organization can detect all the cyber attacks? And in that case, we got a 69% no, and 31% said yes. So basically, the survey results describe a situation in oil and gas where the threat environment is getting worse. The number of successful cyber attacks is increasing and has been, and the ability to detect those attacks is not keeping pace.
Right. So basically, the takeaway for me would be they're getting hit a lot, and that's only the ones that they detect. And so if you add all the ones that they don't think they're detecting, we're talking about a huge, huge attack surface. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security has claimed that the energy sector is attacked more than any other sector that they monitor. Why is that? What's the gain? Why are these attacks suddenly being focused on oil and gas?
Well, I'll draw the distinction between oil and gas and the energy sector in general. When you talk about the energy sector, you have to include electric utilities, distribution, transmission. Oil and gas is certainly a part of energy overall. And I think, when we look at the threat environment in general, there's been an increase in attention paid to, nation-state cyber attacks, basically. So, individual countries or, country-like entities have been increasing their cyber capabilities. Energy is part of critical infrastructure, so it makes an attractive target from that respect. The other aspect, which is a little more subtle but also interesting, is the growing Internet of Things market. And you might not see the connection there immediately, but I had a Gartner analyst, Earl Perkins, put it in a most enlightening way. He said when he talks to operational technology people, people who are engineers first and IT second, generally, they look at the Internet of Things and they say, oh, that's just cheap OT. The OT, especially OT sector, especially in the energy and utilities, they've had devices that are connected that make physical changes in the world for a long time. And the Internet of Things, like that Ring doorbell, for example, is a consumer manifestation of similar principles, and that has increased the level of interest in those types of devices in the security research community. So I think that you see an increase in the number of attacks because you actually have an increase in the level of interest from security research communities in these types of devices as well.
Tim, for the folks playing along at home, can you define IT versus OT?
Sure. So IT is the kind of technology that you think of, desktops, laptops, servers, standard corporate IT stuff, routers, switches. And OT would fall into the category of anything that stands for operational technology, first of all. Devices that make physical changes in the world. So, rather than a logical switch that sits on the network, maybe a switch that actually, turns something on and off physically. In many cases, those are things, devices used in utilities to actually, make changes to, control infrastructure. Often, more and more often, they're connected to a traditional TCP/IP network. Although there are a lot of non-TCP/IP technologies still in use as well.
Right. So SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition devices, would definitely be OT. When do you make the transition from IT to OT? Because I could see some devices that are a little bit of a hybrid. How do you classify?
I would say there's a blurry line between the two, and it's becoming more and more blurry. If you take a network switch that also manages some serial devices, and those serial devices are OT. Is that switch, IT,
Right,
or is it
exactly.
OT? So you're starting to see that convergence, and the industrial Internet of Things and the Internet of Things are sort of at the forefront of that.
I think our audience is starting to understand this now. Why you've pushed this study and why you're doing this research, because most of our organizations treat IT and OT as the same thing. In fact, one of the other takeaways from the research, it was something like 67% of respondents say that their current organization has a single executive in charge of both IT and OT. So they are lumped together, and executives tend to think of it, well, it's just technology. If it's technology, you treat it the same. Should we be treating IT and OT differently?
So I'll tell you, that was the most surprising result for me, actually. Working in the industry, I expect the threat environment is getting worse. Anecdotally, I've already heard that from folks I talk to. But when we engage with customers and prospects who have both OT and IT environments, they're often very separate. And in fact, they often speak very different languages, and they don't get along very well sometimes. So to have that high a percentage of executives or organizations respond that they have a single executive in charge of security for IT and OT was a little surprising to me. In the energy and utility space, figuring out how to get the OT folks and the IT folks working well together around security and compliance is a significant challenge. There's a lot of progress being made, but there are still certainly some barriers to overcome.
Right. This does come into the whole Internet of Things, or as we like to call it on the show, the Internet of Hackable Things, because we've had this wonderful explosion of devices that we had typically thought would live in our networks, be secured within our networks, and now they're out in the real world, and now they actually have real-world ramifications. In fact, Wired picked this up, CNN picked this up. There was just a study that came out, I think, was it a week and a half ago, that showed that we not only do we have the theoretical knowledge to be able to affect a SCADA device at a power plant, we now have relatively sophisticated ways to use those SCADA devices to destroy power infrastructure. Why is it that kind of infrastructure is inherently more attackable? Why is it that seems to have such a larger attack surface than other traditional IT networks?
So I'd argue that it doesn't have a larger attack surface, or maybe I should just draw the distinction. I like to draw the distinction between environments that are defensible and defended. So a defensible environment is one that architecturally or in terms of its behavior lends itself to being defended. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is defended. And the networks and infrastructure in energy and utilities tend to be fairly defensible. They're very predictable. They tend to be fairly static. You don't have a lot of new devices. You don't have, generally speaking, a lot of users who are browsing websites, sending email, that kind of thing. So you should be able to monitor them very effectively. But there hasn't been a lot of reason to move from defensible to defended, because in many cases, these environments have been completely segregated, might not even run TCP/IP, certainly not on the internet. And that's what's changed over the past number of years, really, is that you've had more and more business reasons to connect these networks to corporate IT networks or to the internet. And as a consequence, you've opened up these networks to more attack and more visibility.
Tim, can you give us a peek into the energy industry? When we're talking about the energy industry, how do you see them in terms of their thinking on IT and OT? Are they relatively advanced? Do they understand that they need to defend their network? I mean, they have huge networks and they spend a lot of capital to build them. Where would you rank them in terms of cyber aware?
So I think you have a key difference in attitude and priorities between sort of OT networks in the energy industry and OT in general and IT, and that's really around safety and reliability. An electric utility is first and foremost concerned about keeping the lights on, and frankly, everything else is secondary to that. And they've built systems that are designed to be put in place and run for 10, 15, 20, 30 years without being changed. And when you look at the amortization schedule for standard IT equipment, it's 3 years, maybe 5 tops. So there's a clear difference in terms of the priorities there. The other aspect that comes into it is really attention being paid to safety, and this is where that IoT connection comes in as well. Most people are if they've spent any time with security, are familiar with the CIA acronym: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's what security is intended to protect and provide. When you talk about security with IoT and with industrial technology, you really need to add an S to that and add in safety. Because now you have devices that make physical changes in the world and can have a real human safety aspect. There was an incident last year with a German steel mill where a cyber attack disabled some safety protocols, and actually it resulted in a physical fire. And of course, just in December, we had the attack on the Ukrainian power plants that actually took the power out for about 80,000 customers there.
Yeah, and actually, it doesn't even have to be an attack that changes something in the physical world. It could change data in the virtual world. There was an attack, I think it was in Ukraine. This was 2 years ago, where someone was actually able to change data appearing on a screen, so that the people who were running a refinery thought that the cracker, or whatever they call that, the fractioning unit was empty, and they continued to fill it, and it was already full, so it started coming out of the top. That's the kind of thing that, again, it blurs the line. That's actually more IT than it's OT, because it doesn't change anything in the physical world. It needs someone in the actual world to act on the false data that it's giving them. Tim, I want to bring in my co-host here in just a bit, and then we're going to round out this panel discussion. But what should be our takeaway from looking at the energy industry? Because I see there's definitely a dichotomy here. There's the headquarters, and some of the energy companies have some of the most advanced security protocols I know, protecting the home network. Mm-hmm. And then they also have these units, these devices that are deployed around the world, normally with satellite internet connections, that, as you said, they've forgotten about for the last 30 years, that are completely open, that predate the Internet of Things, that predate any sort of security, that just always assumed that anyone connecting it to the device was supposed to be connected to the device. And so it seems as if you've got the best practices and the worst practices rolled up into one. How should we take that?
So I think one of the biggest risks that prevents cooperation is having corporate IT security folks believe that they know everything about security when it applies to OT. There really needs to be open cooperation. Bring the OT folks into the fold and listen to their requirements and their challenges, because it's not the same environment. There are different requirements. The equipment's different. And if you really want to secure that infrastructure, there are some technology considerations that have to be made. You can't always apply your corporate IT tools to that OT environment and be successful. I think that's an important consideration.
Tim, thank you very much. Now, we will be back with Tim. In fact, we're going to be bringing Chee and Curtis into the discussion. But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the last sponsor of This Week in Enterprise Tech, and it's Igloo. Now, remember when your corporate internet was cutting edge, when it was the height of enterprise communications? Well, it was your own private internet, right? And it looked great. It was something that was branded with your look, with your feel, that had your information. Well, let's fast forward a generation, and that old corporate internet probably doesn't look all that good. Anyone that's worked in that environment knows how painful the internets can be. The content is stale, the interface is ugly, and you can't access it on your mobile devices, which is why we're so happy to have Igloo as a supporter of the Dwight Riot. Now, Igloo is an intranet that you'll actually like. It's a cloud portal that enables you to share files, collaborate on documents, blog updates, coordinate calendars, and manage projects, all from the same attractive and intuitive interface. It leverages the best of the intranet, important enterprise-specific data at your fingertips, and what people have come to expect from the internet, social. Igloo gives your users comments, like buttons, and the ability to add content based on permissions with drag-and-drop widgets and a WYSIWYG editor. Of course, a beautiful and intuitive interface isn't very useful if your users can't access it on the devices that they're using, which is why Igloo built their interface with a responsive design. It automatically reformats to your phone or your tablet. It's also customizable. SharePoint, Salesforce, Active Directory, and soon Dropbox and Box can all live inside your Igloo, branded with your look and feel and accessible on all your devices. Oh, you might be asking about security. Well, Igloo supports SSL and 256-bit encryption, and it's baked into a variety of access authentication and identity services to ensure that only authorized users have access to your intranet. It also offers plans starting as low as $3 per month and per user. And unlike other solutions, you'll get full access to Igloo's entire suite of tools, all for one price. No nickel and diming you, no upsell. It's just use the service exactly the way that you want. Volume pricing is also available, and it's used by government agencies and companies like Hulu, Inventive Health, American Family Insurance, and IP Switch. If they trust Igloo, shouldn't you too? Sign up now and try it for free at igloosoftware.com/twit. That's igloosoftware.com/twit. And when you sign up through our link, you can get your own Igloo for up to 10 people absolutely free for as long as you want. That's igloosoftware.com/twit. igloosoftware.com/twit. And we thank Igloo for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Let's bring my co-hosts back into the discussion. Chee, Curtis, this is a discussion that, well, it needs to happen. This is the Internet of Things and insecure things that we talked about, that we heard spoken about at CES, both this year and the year past, that was spoken of by the FTC chairwoman when she came into San Francisco. Chee, how aware are we of the security issues that are surrounding the energy industry?
Well, because it affects us. You know, when the lights go out, everybody gets scared. Traffic accidents, all kinds of stuff. It's got a huge, huge media impact. And that actually plays to a lot of the motivation on why someone might do this. In the clandestine world, we have an acronym. It's called MICE: Money, Ideology, Conscience, and Ego. In this case, when we have something so public as a power grid going down or something like that, you're going to start playing to someone's ego. And one of the things that a lot of law enforcement does is they're trying to back away from this. The media is demanding news. They want, you know, no news is good news type of thing. But law enforcement is trying to desensitize it. They're not naming names. They're not playing to the hacker egos in an attempt to kind of come back from the edge, so to speak. And so when we start talking about power and utilities, there's a great amount of public safety involved. And that's one of the reasons why the media splashes it all over the place. And that's actually become a self-fulfilling cycle that as more and more media coverage happens, more and more ego comes into play for people that want to go and make a name for themselves.
Curtis, I like what Chee is saying, that this does affect us all. That's one of the interesting things about the energy industry. And actually, that's why I think the IoT, as it relates to the energy industry, is a bellwether for the rest of IT. Because failures in the energy industry are so public, because they are so sensational, they tend to get our attention. Do you think the energy industry will become sort of the case study, the best practices study that industries with less vital infrastructure might use when they structure their next security policy?
You know, we'd like to think so. And we actually have a model for this. A lot of this discussion really does remind me of the discussions that were taking place around critical infrastructure in 1988 and 1999. The number of people who were in the industry and remember the Y2K crisis know that it turned out not to be a crisis, largely because companies actually took measures to make sure that it wouldn't be. And I think that's a really good model for what should be going on now. We have a known problem. There are ways to deal with it, and they should be used in the same way that we knew what the issues were with Y2K. It's interesting because I'm old enough that the Y2K issue is something that I covered heavily. It's something that I remember, and it's something that some folks that I hired in the mid-90s were already working on. But I know that there are an awful lot of people in the industry now who don't have that as part of their professional experience. So the real question is, having learned those lessons, is there anyone left in the industry to remember them?
Good point. Tim, I want to bring you back in. This is just fun for me, but what's the worst case scenario? So let's say that the energy industry does not respond to the study, that they don't take this seriously. For you, what would be the worst possible thing that could happen?
Well, the worst possible thing is, of course, a cyber attack that results in significant loss of life. Nobody wants that to happen, but that's certainly the worst possible scenario. I'll give you the alternative, which is a likely scenario. Within the electric industry specifically, you already have a regulatory standard for critical infrastructure protection that pushes those types of companies, those registered entities, to change their behavior, with the threat of audit and fines. If the rest of the energy industry doesn't make significant changes, I think they'll find themselves in the same regulatory space as electric utilities do today, because that's the logical step. When you don't have an incident to drive change, you create a financial motivation to do so. It's worth noting that this is not just a U.S. or North American problem. This is, of course, worldwide. And in countries where you have less technologically advanced governments, or where you have single utilities that are government owned, the risk could be substantially more there because it's not as diverse an attack surface. It's more homogenous, right?
Absolutely, yes. Chee, let me bring you back in here. So this is the potential scenario. Taking this potential scenario, how do we push that across the industry? So beyond power.
I keep asking that question, and I've spoken publicly on these types of topics, especially when I was still wearing a federal hat. And I keep wondering, we've known about a lot of technologies, but the almighty dollar keeps getting in the way. We start having problems. One of the issues that I dealt with was, our money that we want to go put into more security for the systems and do those upgrades and so forth, that just got eaten up by the new union contract. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying unions are the cause of this. I'm just saying that there seems to be always something more important than a major security upgrade, because out of sight, out of mind. Oh, we haven't had any problems, we're secure enough. That attitude is what's the base problem. We need to get people away from that attitude and start saying we need to invest in the future, because unfortunately, the head in the sand just doesn't work.
Tim, I see you nodding your head here. Is that what you've seen? Is that what you've run to in doing your compliance work with Tripwire? Is this a known problem, but just no one wants to spend the money on it?
I don't think it's that no one wants to spend the money on it. What I was really reacting to was the issue of priorities. There's a finite amount of money to be spent, and often security, which is all about preventing something from actually happening, doesn't get prioritized as highly as other business priorities, because it doesn't have a positive return. It's keeping things from happening, and that's also what creates a regulatory environment where a government or other regulatory entity says, okay, well, if you're not motivated by your own well-being, we'll create a financial motivation through a audit and fine process, so that it becomes worthwhile artificially for you to take some action.
All right. And Curtis, how successful can you be with that? How much of an artificial action, how much pain do you have to expose them to before they'll say, okay, it's worth for us to change the way that we work?
Well, I think there has to be the potential for significant pain. And we can look at a couple of examples. HIPAA is one where there was enough pain written into that act that a lot of healthcare organizations really turned themselves inside out to make sure they would not be the test case. You look at things like GLB and some of the other financial regulations that promised at least the potential for actual jail time for executives who were found to have contributed to noncompliance. Those have been fairly effective in getting the regulations adhered to. So as long as the teeth are there, I think they can be really effective. The issue is that for a lot of regulated utilities, fines are going to have to be massive. I think the only thing that will really get their attention is the potential of jail time for their executives. That seems to be the one that really gets their attention and is probably justified in this case.
Wow. Okay. So we started with cybersecurity. We're ending with jail time for execs. I like this. I like where we've gone. This is a nice range. Tim, I want to give you the last word. What would you want to leave our audience with? So we've seen the study. We've heard the numbers. What should they know as they walk away about what's being done in the energy industry and how that can affect their job? If they're a manager of that 10,000-seat enterprise, what should they be looking at?
So I'm always really wary of the doom and gloom attitude that we end up with some of these results. And yes, the threat environment is bad, and yes, there are successful attacks occurring, but by and large, we can take actions to actually mitigate these things, and they're fairly well-known actions. We're not talking about rocket science. We're talking about applying fairly standard best practices in a new environment, and there are some challenges there, but they are all achievable and manageable. So I think I would take that away. While this is a good indicator of where we are, it's not a declaration of our, any inability to move forward. And I think the energy industry is really starting to realize that and making positive changes.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. And listen, audience, I'm sorry you've done it again. You've used up another hour listening to the best dang enterprise podcast in the universe. That's according to 9 out of 10 SCADA devices. I want to thank my panelists for being here and for pushing this discussion. This has actually been a lot of fun. Tim, let's start with you. If people wanted to find out more about your work, more about the study, more about Tripwire, where can they go?
Well, the published results for the study are on tripwire.com. I think they're probably linked to on the front page. Oh, look, there's a screenshot. Very nice. And certainly can find out more about what Tripwire does at tripwire.com as well. And if folks want to connect with me, I'm on Twitter at TERLIN, and that's a good place to find me.
Tim, always a pleasure. We'll have you back soon because I don't see us running out of security issues at any point in the near future. Thank you very much. That's Tim Erlin, the Director for Product Management at Tripwire.
Thanks.
Yeah. Also, I want to thank my co-hosts. I wouldn't want to do this show without them. Let's start with Chee, the geek in paradise. Are you going to be making it over to the Bay Area anytime soon? I got conflicting emails. I'm not sure if you're going to.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had been hoping to make it to the Bay Area Maker Faire, but then the day job again got in the way. So I think the next time I'm going to be up there is probably going to be hot stage for Interop if I get invited.
Wow. Well, actually, I'm going to see you before you see me. I'll be in Hawaii in the end of March, April.
Actually, dude, Cranky Hippo's on Kauai right now.
I know. There's a reason why I had to do all those pre-recordings last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sweating.
Anyway, good day, folks.
Good day. Also, a good day to our friend over on the right coast, which is currently getting buffeted by the latest Stormageddon. Curtis Franklin, what's going on at Information Week Radio? Where can people check out your work?
Well, they can find my work typically at informationweek.com. I've got a lot of good writing going on. I'm getting deeper and deeper into DevOps and other development issues at Information Week, and also have a lot of interesting stuff coming up on the radio. I've got plenty of interviews that are in the can that I'm going to be rolling out, some CIO stories and IT executive stories that I think should be interesting to everyone. So come on over to Information Week and check them out.
Fantastic. Curtis, Chee, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for being part of This Week in Enterprise Tech. And folks, thanks to you too, because without you, we don't have an audience. Without an audience, we don't have a show. You keep coming back week after week after week to listen to all the enterprise goodness that we can fit into an hour. And I want to thank you. And the way I'm going to thank you is by giving you a place where you can go to get all of our episodes. Just go to the show page at twit.tv/Twiet. There you'll be able to find every episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech from episode 1 all the way up to episode 173. You'll be able to find links so you can get them automatically downloaded into your device of choice. If you want the audio version in your iPhone so you can listen to us in the car, if you want a video version on your tablet so that you can watch us on your break, or if you want the high-definition version on your Mac, your PC, your desktop, your laptop so you can watch us in HD goodness, that's all available at twit.tv/Twiet. Don't forget that we do this show every week at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time on Fridays. Go to live.twit.tv and you can watch us in the live stream. You get to see us before we do any of the editing to remove the bloopers, and you get to see the pre and the post show. For a lot of people, that's really the fun part of being Twit TV. And as long as you're watching live, go ahead and jump into our chat room at irc.twit.tv. There you'll be able to communicate with me and with the co-host and the guest. In fact, I got you on a screen right here. It allows me to bring your content, your questions, your conversations into the show. Again, part of the experiment that is Twit TV. Finally, I want to thank everyone here at the studio who makes this show possible. Of course, to Leo and Lisa for letting us do This Week in Enterprise Tech. To Karsten, my super producer, and to my replacement hippo. She's just starting, and she's doing a bang-up job. Kara, I'm not sure if you have a camera on yourself, but there you go.
I do this week.
You do this week.
This time.
This time. Could you please tell the folks what you do here at Twit, because you do way more than Cranky Hippo.
I don't know about that. Well, probably. I do a lot of the handheld camera operating in the studio during new screensavers, and out in the field, we actually just did a cool shoot, me and Padre, the Archimoto, and you guys can watch that on the new screensavers tomorrow at 3 p.m. What is that, Pacific? Is that where we are?
Yeah, we're Pacific.
Okay. Yeah, we're Pacific. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, I'm learning how to TD, as you saw from my few mistakes, those bloopers you mentioned, thanks to me.
You know, that was still fewer the mistakes than Cranky Hippo makes, so it's fine.
All right. Well, thank you very much for letting me play and try.
Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the Digital Jesuit, just reminding you that if you want to know what's going on in the Enterprise, just keep quiet.